Well, that's of course a big question. I think there are two fundamental issues that involve global higher education, and universities and countries need to constructively understand them and then deal with them. The two of them are, on the one hand, massification, the tremendous expansion of enrollments that's taken place around the world in the last 30 or 40 years, which has absolutely revolutionized access. It's revolutionized the nature of teaching, the way universities are organized, the funding, and so on. That is sort of coming up from the bottom, and it can't be resisted. All countries are experiencing massification. And the other one is a contradictory force, which is the impact of the global knowledge economy. And of course, Singapore is a hub of the global knowledge economy, or wants to be. And the challenge there is to build sophisticated research universities that can compete and cooperate all around the world with the top universities everywhere, because those research universities are the institutions which permit high-level research and which permit countries to communicate that research and to import it also from around the world. So there are two contradictory forces, and they're both quite difficult to deal with at the same time. Well, universities are complicated institutions. Some claim these days that universities need to be more like corporations. They need to have more professionalized leadership and management. And I think it's true that universities need to be more effectively managed, and that universities are increasingly large and very complicated institutions. But they're universities, and they come from a particular historical tradition, and they value the participation, especially of the faculty, in the governance of the institution. And the best universities in the world have a lot of bottom-up management, and it's important to keep the role of the faculty, what we call shared governance, as part of what the universities are doing globally. All of that is not particularly easy, because you have the pressure on the one hand of governments, which are spending a lot of money on higher education. You have the pressure of the consumers, that is the students, who want a particular product. And both of those are affecting the ways that universities are thinking about themselves. But I am a believer still in the idea of the traditional university. I think it works pretty well, and it can be modernized to meet the needs of the 21st century. They are incredibly important in today's world, but we need to keep in mind that research universities are only a small part of a necessarily diversified academic system. I do this because in almost all countries, universities are kind of organized as a pyramid, with a small number of research universities on the top, and then mass access institutions in the middle, and the equivalent of what in America are community colleges or polytechnics at the bottom. So research universities are central to the knowledge creation and dissemination business, and therefore central to the global knowledge economy. Incredibly important. And my belief, not shared by everybody, is that almost all countries need at least one good research university. They may not be the kind of institutions that are going to produce Nobel Prize winners, but they are the institutions that are going to be able to communicate effectively with the best of the universities all around the world. So they're very, very important. How to manage them, how to create them, how to fund them are really quite difficult problems. Research universities need to have several characteristics. They need to be well managed and governed. They need to have a lot of input from the faculty. They need to have good funding. They need to ensure that the faculty are well enough paid so that you can attract the best and the brightest to them. They need to be meritocratic, and I say that because in many countries there is a lot of corruption in higher education systems. So you have to admit the best students on objective criteria, and those characteristics are necessary parts of what a research university is. By the way, in most of the world, the research universities are public institutions. It's only in the United States and Japan that there are private, not-for-profit research universities. Harvard and MIT are both good examples of those private institutions. Waseda and Keio are in Japan also. But in most of the world, they're public institutions because it's only government that can afford to support them and to build them. In America at the moment, our public research universities are suffering because our state governments have cut budgets. And in the long run, this is going to be very dangerous for American leadership in science and technology. So other parts of the world, Southeast Asia particularly, needs to understand that they need to support these kind of institutions. Singapore does that. In fact, Singapore is kind of exemplary in thinking carefully about having several elite institutions that can compete with the best in the world. I think it's fair to say that all the other Southeast Asian countries, no exceptions, have really ignored what I think is a vital need to support research-focused universities. Malaysia has done this to some extent, but the rest not at all.